We are super excited to announce our collaboration with two of the best players in Europe, Angelo Truscello and Enrico Maria Rustico. If you're looking to pick up one of their guides, make sure to use the code HILL10 for 10% of your order, while also supporting the channel. And now a quick word from our sponsor SleeveShift. If you are into any kind of TCG or you just like anime, make sure to use the code HILL5 for 5% of your order while supporting the channel. Hi everyone, today we are joined by Angelo, one of the European players who will be representing Italy at the One Piece World Championship. In this video, we'll talking about the new Roger promo card and how it could impact the upcoming meta. So first of all, hi Angelo.
Hi guys, hi everyone.
We'd like to talk about the possibility of this card being legal at the Düsseldorf final since it hasn't been officially confirmed yet. Do you think it will be legal by then? And what kind of impact will it have on the meta? I'm sorry about the question, but was recorded way before the official announcement on the One Piece card game English page. So Roger is delayed by one set of the Store Tournament Volume 2 from 2025 Volume 2 to 2026 Volume 1. So keep in mind that it's not legal for the finals, but I kept the question for just knowledge about the meta that will be.
Okay, so I think it will be legal in Düsseldorf, but I'm not 100% sure. I think we still have to consider both the options with and without Roger. If Roger is legal, I think both UP and Roger itself are gonna have a good outcome, because I think that card is really needed in these two decks, especially in UP, because you don't have Lin anymore. You need something to stay healthy. Boosting the leader to 8k is just too strong, especially versus Himu. I think it's really impactful. And also in Roger, I think having the possibility to play Roger for one don less than Newgate, it's really important. Also because you can leave one open don for the event, and also you can swing higher, so that's really important as well. And obviously it's also searchable. That makes the deck more consistent. Because I think Roger has a consistency problem. I think if you draw the perfect curve, that deck is really strong. But if you don't, the deck is really bad, in my opinion.
In your previous tier list, you already gave us your take on the meta. Would you change anything now with the addition of Roger?
If Roger is legal, I think UP will be tier 1.5. And I think Roger as well. Maybe Roger slightly higher than UP. But without Roger, I think UP is like a tier 3. And Roger like a tier 2-ish. Something like that. But yeah, with the addition of Roger, both decks are really strong options, in my opinion.
And now speaking of the decks in general that we mentioned, the first one is Roger. What's your opinion of him in the current meta? How do you think he stacks up against the big three, Imu, Zoro, and Ace?
So I think Roger is a really strong deck, but as I said before, I think if you draw bad, you have no chances versus these three decks. Especially I think versus Imu, you really need to see two Shanks on curve to win the matchup. Otherwise it becomes really hard, because you cannot keep up with the Imu's pressure over multiple turns. I think having the consistency of having the possibility of searching Roger is really important, because you're not sure you're gonna see two Shanks. Having one searcher for Roger is really important, so you can still do something if you don't see Shanks. Versus Zoro, I don't really have a strong opinion, but if Roger sees like the curve just with only rampers, I think the matchup is favored for Roger, because you are just too fast, and Zoro is gonna slow down because you are putting too many big bodies. And I think the same happens versus Ace, because you are just faster than Ace, so you can put one big body in advance. So you're gonna have one additional attacker and one additional character which puts pressure on board. And I think that's really bad for Ace. But as I said before, you You just need to be lucky and see the curve and see rampers, and then the big drops according to the matchup.
We also seen that Pluffy UP has already put up some strong results in Asia as soon as the promo dropped. Do you think the deck could make a comeback like it did in OP12, or it did just get a new tools without being as broken as it was back then?
So I think if UP doesn't have Roger, the deck is really weak in comparison to the full power UP, because I think Lin and Kataguri were really needed, because I think the deck is still really strong, but I think the main problem is that UP usually wanna ramp up and go to 10 and then start grinding. So you wanna survive for as many turns as possible, because we have one additional draw every turn. So then you can slowly outgrind the opponent. But if you don't have cards to keep you healthy, you cannot just keep up with the opponent's pressure, especially versus decks that go wide on board, like Imu. So yeah, I think if Roger is not legal, UP is gonna be really bad and weaker than the full power version. But with Roger, I think the deck is at the same power level than the full power version, but I think OP13 decks have a really high power level than previous decks. So I think still UP doesn't have a really good chance versus them. You can still win, but I think you are starting the game already behind. But I think the deck is still really good, really solid. Also, some people don't know how UP lists are built now, and I think that's a reason why the deck could be good, because people don't know what to expect, what the cards you can include in your deck, and that's really important for you. That really makes the deck favored if you face an opponent which doesn't really know the deck well.
There are some interesting takes on decks we don't usually see mentioned very often, like Red Black Sabo, Betty, Zoro&Sanji, and Purple Uta. And I also noticed Lim's recent rise in popularity, as well as the use of Magellan. What do you think about this deck and the rising of Lim?
I think all these decks will be still good in the early OP13 format, because I think, in my opinion, some players don't know how to play versus them, especially Emu players, because I think Emu is a really skilled deck, and you need to know how to navigate these matchups. So I think these decks are gonna win some games versus Emu, just because Emu players don't know how to play versus them. In particular, I think Sabo is really good, but the main issue is that if Sabo goes second, it's really strong, but going first is like really bad in my opinion. So it's too much dice dependent. I mean, I think in this meta, every deck wanna go second, but I think Sabo in particular has a really weak going first curve. I think it's not one of the best options in my opinion, but it's still a good pick, because the going second curve is just too strong. Also, there is Betty, which is really good in my opinion, because tier 1 decks like Emu and Ace are slow in the early game, and then have a peak in the mid to late game. But Betty, being an aggro deck, which is really aggressive and pushes really hard during the first 4 turns, has a really great chance versus these decks. And also, at the moment, I think there are not as many removals as before. Emo has Mars, but only that. There is not Raging Tiger in the meta anymore, so it's really hard to remove Ivankov and Karazu. So I think Betty has a chance versus these two decks, but versus Zoro it's really hard, because Zoro just rests everything and then controls the board. But I think the deck is still good versus Emo and Ace, especially if it wins the dice. Also, there are Purple Uta and Lim. I think both these two decks are good because there is Magellan, and also Lim has the 2-cost Nami, which is really great versus Emu, Ace, and Roger, because you can just stun one Dawn, so they cannot play their big drop, and that's really important because you have an additional turn to put pressure. So I think Lim is lower than Betty, but you can buy one turn for free with Nami or with Magellan if you see it, and it's the same for Pluffy. But I think the issue here is that Magellan is not searchable, so you need to be very lucky. You need to see sometimes 2 Magellans because 1 is not enough most of the times. But Lim at least has the Nami, which is searchable, but Purple Uta doesn't have it. So I think, in my opinion, it's slightly weaker than Lim. I think they both have a chance in the meta, but I think the power level of Emu and Ace and also Zoro is just too high, so I don't think there is an argument to play a deck which is not in the top 3. But still, if you are an aggressive player, you can still play these two decks. And also Zoro&Sanji is really good. It's really similar to Betty. It's really aggressive. And also there is the new Luffy, which has double attack. That card is really great because if you do not manage to remove it or guard the swing, the game will be over. But at the same time, there are a lot of events in the meta. Emu is running usually 6 or 7 events, and there are also a lot of blockers in the meta. So it's really hard for Zoro&Sanji to connect the attack, even if you can swing twice. But still, it's not a consistent game plan, in my opinion. So that's the reason why I think the deck is good, but not that good. But it's still an option if you are an aggressive player, as I said before.
As a final question, will there be any changes you'd make to your current definitive tier list? And possibly after Roger release as well?
I think the pre-Roger tier list is pretty similar than my previous one. I think Emo and Ace are still the only 2 tier 1 decks. Then I think Zoro is the only deck standing in tier 1.25, because I think the deck has a really high power level, but it's not that consistent as Emo and Ace. And then I think from Roger, the Roger leader is a tier 1.5, so not a tier 1.25 anymore, as it was before. And also I think without Roger, UP is not even tier 2, so it's not in the list anymore. And also I think Rally as well is not anymore in tier 1.5, but it is closer to the tier 3. It's the last of the tier 2 decks. And also Lim is joining the tier 1.5. I think the deck is good and is gaining a lot of popularity the last weeks. So I think it's slightly below Sabo and Roger. And then we have Bonnie, Betty, Pluffy, and Zoro&Sanji and Rayleigh in tier 2. I think these 5 decks are pretty good, but still not as good as the other decks. But I think they still have a chance. I was putting Bonnie in tier 1.5, but I think the deck is more likely to be to stay in tier 2 as the first of the tier 2 decks. And also I think that's it. I think that's the pre-Roger tier list, in my opinion. Okay, so for the post-promo Roger tier list, I think Emu, Ace, and Zoro are still in the same position, but I think now Roger is at tier 1.25 and UP is at tier 1.5, in my opinion. So it's not a tier 3 anymore, but I think with Roger it's a really good deck. but in my opinion, not as good as Imo and Ace because they have an insane power level higher than UP, in my opinion, especially if players know now how to play versus UP. And the rest of the decks, I think, are still in the same position as the previous tier list. So I think that's it. I think that's my hot take for the early OP13 meta game. I really like this meta. I think triangle meta is an healthy one. Also, I think Imo, Ace, and Zoro are really cool decks. Also, in my opinion, Imo and Zoro are really skilled decks. I think also Ace is a cool deck, really consistent. So I really like it as well. And I'm really happy to play this meta. I hope you will enjoy this meta game as well. And I wish you luck for the finals.
And that's it for the video. Thank you, Angelo, so much for your time. It's always
you,
a
everyone.
pleasure
Thank
to have
you.
you here.
Same for me. Thank you.
Remember to like, subscribe, and bye.
Bye bye.